and welcome to Season 2 of the Ruby Hour. My name is Shelby Ring. Here in Season 2, I'm taking a more intimate approach. Stories around the inner workings of spirituality, emotional resilience, and sexuality and self-image in these times of uncertainty and unknown. My genuine hope is that you will find connection during this social distancing era through this season of the Ruby Hour.
Want to see the sun shine through your very soul, dear. Darkest parts and let the light in.
I have a theory that people who live on mountains carry a sense of ruggedness. Us flat land dwellers do not. I'm stopping at Saba Island on a boat trip up the Lesser Antilles. You're greeted by this lone mass of rock jutting out from the middle of the ocean.
Are those stormy petrels?
Yeah.
It's not stormy. I wonder if that tail helps them dive, like a little bit more aerodynamic.
It's ominous, fairy tale-esque crags and cliffs. Sailing up to it, I wondered how and why anyone could live on such an island. Saba has two main roads, the road that couldn't be built and the road that shouldn't have been built. When you get there, you dinghy into an industrial dock, and it feels more like a quarry than a tropical island. You get into a taxi van, most likely driven by a tall, possibly blonde Danish taxi driver, and you begin the ascent into a series of hairpin turns and zigzags. What comes next is the last thing you would anticipate. Beautiful communities of red-roofed buildings with white walls, homes, a veterinary school. It's iconic. It's like a meadow town center floating hundreds of feet up above the waters that you see between peaks. The road that couldn't be built was surveyed by a number of outside civil engineers that didn't live on the island in the early 1900s. Every one of them came back with the same conclusion. The terrain was too dangerous, unruly, steep, and building a road was not possible. The Danes who lived on the island thought otherwise and came together and hand-built the roads themselves. Our taxi driver was telling us how his his grandfather participated in digging out the very road that we were on. Digging the raw earth along the cliffside. On one side, you look out and you see the edge of the same road miraculously above you. And looking to the other side, you see the ocean and a steep drop. But they did it. In this feat, in addition to hand building what some would argue is the most dangerous airplane landing strip in the world, it puts St. Bart's infamous landing strip to shame. Literally sporting a leveled, jutting chunk of rock carved out from one of the cliff sides. It resembles more of a clay tennis court than a place for chartered planes to land. Maybe it was all of the world-class gin and tonics Duco, the 5-language speaking bartender and instant best friend, was feeding me at Queen's Garden.
An ice cube out of cucumber, lemongrass, and lime.
Oh.
And some fresh cucumber.
Wow.
I'm glad we asked.
Yeah. I mean, I love my wine too, but this is extra special.
Extra special. Because it's over sweet and floral nut.
Why do you use that spoon like that?
It's a special alloy made by NASA, so that in space astronauts can pour a drink like this because there's no gravity. They can just catch a drink like that. It also works with gravity, that goes down. Is it a nice bullshit story?
I was going to say, you pulled it off pretty well.
I gotta believe you.
NASA.
Yeah.
NASA's good for a lot of things, right? And last but not least for you, also Scottish gin, just like the Hendrix. I've made an ice cube of grapefruit and a little touch of vanilla in
I
there.
couldn't help but notice that the people of this island seem to carry themselves a little higher than I'd noticed anywhere else in the Caribbean. There was an air of pride in the way they walked.
Premium tonic.
Their shoulders pulled back a little more than I'd seen on Martinique or Ile-de-France or in the US. And maybe they were smiling a little more than I'd seen anywhere else. Friendlier. Every person we interacted with, from the industrial docking area, the man with his dreadlocks relaxed in the shade at the shack that served fish pâtés,
I think that's one of the best ideas they did with the rocks over the wall.
with his brand new baby blue-eyed pit bull puppy on the bar, the Santo bar owner and his daughter who happily called their friend who was going up the island for a lift for us for free. I think that it's like the road that couldn't be built, or the road that shouldn't be built, or that landing strip, that omnipresent adversity and ever-present hardship of life, living forever between a rock and a hard place. I think it managed to curve out wells of kindness, resilience, confidence, and appreciation through the character of all the Saban people we met.
Your hand in mine, like a shell on a beach, waiting for your reach, falling up to the mountain.
Then you're gonna want to wrap that shit. There's no way you're gonna.
I didn't realize you had that much up.
Neither me.
There's no need for doubt.
You can wrap back up in that shit.
No, man.
Go too fast or stop?
Oh, this is perfect.
Yeah.
There's no need for doubt in his mind.
Very good. Right?
There's a line like the sun through the
Put a pasta in, stir it around, put it back. Smells really good. This is our little pepper wheel.
Oh my gosh! That's the coolest!
my hand in the jar.
What a classy establishment. What a classy establishment.
Of June, falling up to the pole of the tide. Oh, I've seen it before. I've
And
never
after
been
our
told.
wonderful dinner, we hop into the dinghy and have a wonderful cruise back to our boat.
There's no need for doubt in his mind.
Saba isn't the only mountainous place that I've seen these variegated sets of characteristics. Asheville. I'm an Austin, Texas girl through and through, and I've heard so many people make references between Asheville, Portland, New Orleans, San Francisco, all of these cities to have this sister city vibe of the keep Austin weird culture I grew up in. This morning, walking uphill a half mile to the West Asheville main strip of shops to grab an oat milk cappuccino, I noticed that my ears were met by a 360-degree, multi-tiered sound grade of crickets keeping tempo. Cicadas bringing the phaser in and out of intensity. There were backbeats of far-off notes of crows settling disputes with one another, and the occasional muted beat drop of a tree seed that looked something like a lime, resembling the tumbling and the inevitable roll down the steep incline of the road I was walking on. The whir of a bicyclist wearing black denim cutoffs and a not-so-new faded black t-shirt frequently wove in and out of the cacophony of sound I heard. I immediately think of Spike, the classic anti-establishment punk cyclist that Fred Armisen embodies as one of his characters in Portlandia, seeing these people crank by on these hills. Asheville sports its own hairpin turns, 5-way intersections, and many of the houses I noticed are built along the sides of ravines and gulches. Words that my daft, flat land, rolling hills mind would have to look up in order to understand the difference. I ignorantly have the spoof song from Portlandia is playing in the background of my mind as I attempt to categorize these various characters that I'm walking past. I see them loitering along grassy knolls at the bus stop, and I remind myself that I'm on the East Coast, not the west of the country. The graffiti murals and the mismatch of artisanal shops and green trees that frame it all in make me think of Shoal Creek in Austin. But I see a certain weathered, hard, formidable etching across the faces of many people that I see walking through the Asheville streets. My theory is this comes from facing winters filled with shoveling snow, having a life involving snow tires, and all-wheel drive being a necessity for a portion of the year. I'm reminded that the plush, plentiful, verdant trees that I see aren't omnipresent. The times I seldom will see of this mountainous community are marked with bare trees, colder temperatures than I know how to tolerate, and warmth being a sought-after commodity. Trekking up multi-mile roads with a steady, consistent incline multiple times a day seems exhausting to me. And I see more than a dozen men and women trekking along each day in my 3-mile radius of exploration here. I see the grade, the adversity of the incline as treacherous, but when you're living here year-round and facing times of snow and ice, I think that the people of such an environment consider getting to face this adversity to maybe be a gift. You're not always able to feel so free as to commute by bike year-round. When privileges and options are taken away periodically, do they not rise in value as a commodity to us? How much more do you covet the Chick-fil-A sandwich because you've been blindsided by disappointment so many times on a Sunday, thinking you'll just swing by and get your waffle fry fix? It's basic human psychology. The toy that you never had interest in but forever had to the wayside compared to your new novel toys suddenly becomes priceless as another 4-year-old expresses interest in that thing you took for granted. And yet now more than ever, that's all that you want. Or maybe it looks like, as a go-getter, ambitious young woman, taking proactive measures to make sure you don't accidentally get pregnant in this phase of your life, to being told on a routine doctor's visit that there's a high chance you may never be able to conceive. And now all you can think about is being a mom and wanting to hold your child in your arms. Through COVID-19, did you ever think that you would covet shaking people's hands when you first meet them? Or maybe secretly hoping that new person you meet is maybe a little tipsy, maybe a little ill-informed, and goes in for a big hug in our social distancing era anyways? Did you ever think that you would appreciate the ability to sit down at a restaurant and carelessly, frivolously inhale and exhale the communal air around you? Did you ever think that would be such a delicacy? Or sitting beside somebody that you can't help but eavesdrop as that woman wears you out with her negative attitude and trash talks about her best friend while you're eating a biscuit, and she voices all of her concerns to her husband that is tolerating the monotony of negativity from her.
I'm done with her. Like, the fact that she thinks she can just roll up like a week late and then stay beyond the point that she said she was comfortable with, I just think that's bullshit. It's bullshit. And I mean, I'm not going to surround myself with that kind of negativity.
Did you ever think that you would miss those moments? Or what about walking anywhere you want in a grocery store without having arrows telling you what direction to walk, where to stand, getting passive-aggressively pissed and on guard when some asshole walks a little too close to you down the aisle, or also happens to be looking for cumin for their dinner plans and stands way too close to you in the spice section? Did you ever think that you would miss those little moments? Maybe 2020 is our lone mass of rock jutting out in the middle of the ocean. Ominous fairy tale crags of fear and cliffs of unknown and uncertainty. How could anyone live here? How could anyone get through this? Maybe this COVID-19 era of social distancing is our road that cannot be built. Despite the headlines, the news stories of economic despair and victimization, the depressive naysayer vein that seems to be coursing throughout society, maybe you and I, maybe we build it anyway. Maybe this time is a gift to help us see how much we love being a part of our community. Hearing that one guy that talks a little too loud at the coffee shop. Maybe you miss how he used to annoy you. Maybe you miss how the most irritating thing about booking international travel used to be the increased check-bagged fees. Maybe you'd miss that bar that's a little too loud to hear your girlfriends over the acoustics. And how you'd give anything to have some overly sweaty dude accidentally bump into you at a salsa dancing social. People who regularly face mountains have a resilience and strength flatland dwellers do not. There's a hardiness to how they carry themselves. Maybe they're a little more weathered on the outside, not so composed, prim and perfect, but maybe they know a little more of joy, of celebrating the little things, those simple pleasures that go right in their life, than their flatlander counterparts. We are all people of the mountains right now, facing adversity, setbacks, disappointments, steep inclines before us and below us. You aren't the same person you were before COVID-19. No one is. But rather than going with the defeated, deflated statements, I know I'm hearing left and right of, I can't wait until things get back to the way they used to be. Oh, I can't wait until things get back to normal. Maybe you can see the new lines of definition, the curves of strength within who you are today. Maybe you can start to see the gifts of simple pleasures you love in your life. The new set of eyes of love that you see through. Seeing how special the little parts of life are. The quiet moments. And looking forward to the loud, irritating moments we secretly miss. And maybe it's seeing that you have more than what it takes to build the road that experts said could not be built. So here's to you, my mountain people.
Found some eyes that see me from the inside. Nothing left to hide, not even from myself.
The Ruby Hour is produced and sound scored by our company, Ruby Riot Creatives, a video production and storytelling studio based out of Charleston, South Carolina. Music in this episode include Eyal Raz, Paper Planes, Rodeo's Machine, and my favorite you're listening to right now, We Together by Binge Heard. All music featured in this episode is under our Artlist commercial licenses. If that delicious description of the gin and tonic ingredients made you thirsty, I can't recommend checking out Queen's Garden at Saba Island enough. I'll include the link to their website in the show notes. And a huge thank you to my dear friends David and Shay for opening up their Airbnb in Asheville where I'm producing this week. I'm including their incredible Canopy Airbnb listing in the show notes. A huge thank you to my dear friends Laura and Danny, forever travel buddies that were on that boat delivery where we stopped in Saba. They've always made so many amazing memories with me. And if you're hearing the random snickering and animal noises and wondering what's going on right now, this episode features an entire visual storytelling component where you can find video clips of the road that couldn't be built, Saba's landing strip, and the cutest blue-eyed pit bull puppy you have ever seen. You can find all of these details on the YouTube video of the episode over at our channel, Ruby Riot Creatives and the Ruby Hour podcast. Wanderlust spirit during this social distancing, quarantining time. I chronicled that full boat delivery with these clips over on a blog project I created, travelswithshelby.com. Right now, you can see Laura pretending to be an elephant with elephant ears and just put some form of a tree branch in her mouth that she is now spitting out. If you need more travel stories to feed your, please be sure to get on our email newsletter where we email out exclusive show content and behind-the-scenes clips. And as always, I hope you stay safe and live a life filled with passion and stories worth telling.
Holding on to the morning